Hello and welcome to episode number 57 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, spinning, all of the fiber crafts that I feel like. So I skipped an episode last week because I was ill. I almost completely lost my voice. That lasted until about 2 days ago, or it went a bit on and off. But 2 days ago was definitely the worst. I would usually record on Fridays and then edit on Saturdays these days. But yeah, on Friday I still hadn't got my voice back. So it's Saturday today and it is a lovely day in the Netherlands. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time to spend it with me. That's lovely, and also thanks for all the comments. So, I'm back. I'm still kind of combating a cold. That doesn't mean that there haven't been a few, quite significant changes for me. I've gone back to work after my surgery, but that does not mean that I had to go back full time yet. So I've been working for 2 half days this week, and just, if that goes well, then I can add another half day a week and then slowly build up back to 40 hours a week again. So I don't have to hurry back into getting to work, and I can kind of feel that I need that because I've been exhausted a lot of the time, and being so exhausted as I was, a lot of my, which I call knitting time, but I use it for all the crafts, has been somewhat limited also by the fact that I've not been wanting to knit too much, but I have been away for 2 weeks, so I have a fair bit to show you anyway. But I have been reading the Outlander series, and it has been taking a lot of my time. I'm on the 3rd book now. I've been reading the books for a few weeks. I started just before the surgery, and they're quite big books. They're not my first language, so it takes some time. Anyway, you're not here to to hear about me babble about books that I'm reading. You probably want to know what I have been doing. But first, let me get the elephant out of the room. I'm wearing my, I call it the Japanese Dusala, but it's the Dusala cardigan from the Ziggurat book by Asta Tricota, where I ran out of yarn to knit full-length sleeves, and the lace panel is actually not from the Dusala pattern. It's from the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible, and I believe out of my head it's pattern number 49, but I'm not 100% sure. It will be probably on screen right now and in the down bar or on my project page for those of you who are interested. Anyway, so that's what I'm wearing, and the lovely yarn that I used for this cardigan is Peaches and Cream by Lillipond Yarn, and it's a high twist sock yarn, and oh my, this is really my favorite cardigan at the moment, especially with the weather that we're having. It's not really weather to wear thick, heavy sweaters or cardigans anymore. Today is a very lovely day. Last week it has been a bit less, but it's lovely. Anyway, so let's get finally into what I've been doing. So first of all, I want to show you my knitting project, and I have 2 this week. And one of them is this pair of socks, which I'm knitting them 2 at a time. And for those of you who think that this is completely out of my color comfort zone, yeah, you're probably right. These aren't colors that I would pick. The stitches don't really look nice and even, and that has a reason, because this is a pair of socks that my mom initially picked out to knit for herself. So she picked up 2 skeins of this yarn, and it's Ostermann. So I'm not sure if that's a German or it's a German brand, it says on the label. But she picked those up on holiday in Austria. I was there, told her that this would be proper yarn for knitting socks with, but she didn't like knitting with it at all. It's quite splicey yarn, so you tend to, get into the stitches rather than in between the stitches when you're trying to make a new stitch, and especially because I had also given her a set of higher sharps in the past. So yeah, she did not quite enjoy knitting them. She also did not quite understand the pattern that she was trying to knit. She didn't understand how to cast on. Basically, my mom has learned to knit in Dutch, and I had given her my sock pattern for vanilla socks, but my pattern is in English and my knitting vocabulary is mainly in English. I can kind of understand Dutch knitting patterns as well, but I hardly ever knit from those. So when people at my knitting group have questions and they ask in Dutch, I often really don't know what they mean. But if they want, you know, to see how a specific stitch is done, I can show them, but I can't tell them what to do. So anyway, so I'm knitting this pair of socks. She had started them 2 at a time. I have ripped back all of her work because, well, we don't knit to the same gauge, and yeah, I didn't want to continue with, well, some of the mistakes that she already had in her socks. But my mom's birthday is coming up next week, so I want to have these finished for her. I think back in November or October last year, she was kind of complaining like she didn't like knitting on these socks, and that she didn't want to start any other project because she felt like she had to finish these first, but she didn't enjoy knitting these, so she wasn't knitting these. So I felt, let's free up some space in her mind and offer to knit these socks for her. And as you can hear, I've not been in a hurry to do so, seeing as like half a year has passed since I've offered to knit those for her. But yeah, I'm finally doing it, and it's been a bit annoying because all the yarn was all crinkled up and well, not very nice. You can't really see it because I think I'm about as far as my mom got. You can see that here I still have quite a bit of yarn wrapped around the ball from the outside, so that's probably an indication of how much yarn she had knit. But this doesn't look crinkly, so maybe this she just pulled out too much or something, I don't know. The other one is a bit closer, so there's maybe 1 or 2 rounds left that are, well, there's just a few rounds left that are wrapped around the ball. So yeah, she bought 2 100-gram balls with the idea that she could knit 3 pairs of socks out of them. I'm not gonna knit her 3 pairs of socks for her birthday. She can get 1, and maybe for the next 2 birthdays I know exactly what to give her. Anyway, so these are just my vanilla socks without the modification that is in my pattern to have a high instep, because my mom has a very low instep on her feet. Otherwise she has the same size of feet as me. I don't have a particularly high instep as well, but somewhat higher than she has. Anyway, so I'm just knitting them so that they would fit me, and then they would probably fit my mom as well. So that's what I'm doing here. Nothing too exciting, I guess. So then there's been another knitting project, and I can't remember if I've knit on anything else actually, but there is a second knitting project. Don't worry, there's more than just knitting this week. So you will remember my fishy socks that actually I worked on before last episode, but I completely forgot to share. And here it is. And this doesn't look very good because it looks like I'm not going forward. That's not exactly true. This is actually the second sock, I guess, which I have ripped back to the point where I needed to start the gusset. So I am not quite finished with the first sock. You can hear maybe the elastic and reinforcement yarn. They are still on bobbin, so you can hear them probably. But I am still on a ribbing of the other sock, but here's the other sock. I quite like how this turned out. So yeah, this is apparently the length that the skein would allow me. This is how much I've left of the blue skein, and the grey one was even more run out before I started doing the ribbing, but yeah, I threw it inside the sock, so so that it wouldn't be in my way. But I didn't want to cut yarn in case the other skein is somewhat smaller. So I just did a little bit of the ribbing, but I almost ran out of the reinforcement yarn. So this is knit out of long Jawoll yarn, and they come with a bobbin with a slightly thinner thread, but it just matches the yarn in color perfectly, and it's meant for the heels and toes especially. And I've used it in the heel as well. I forgot to use it in the toe, but this bobbin, as you can see, is almost running out, and I want to make sure that I have the same amount for both socks. So I have a full other bobbin, and I may have to look if I have another bobbin, because I actually purchased 3 skeins of each color in the past, because I was going to knit a very thick pair of socks for my brother's girlfriend, not knowing how much yarn I would need, and I made a very terrible overestimation of how much I would need. But yeah, so yeah, I still think I have some leftovers on that bobbin, but I'm not sure if I had already used that or not. So yeah, I probably need to look up the bobbins and make sure that they are all getting the same length of ribbing at the top. I'm also knitting along some knitting elastic, which is a bit more difficult to see, but maybe you can see it here. It's the knitting elastic. It's kind of transparent, which is nice because otherwise it would show up a lot, and I don't want it to. But from my previous experiences with knitting knee-high socks, it's nice to have some elastic at the top, because otherwise they tend to fall down along your legs, and that can look a little bit silly. So yeah, so I'm now trying to figure out where I started exactly with the gusset on the second sock, which was originally the first sock, because as you will know, I had knit the second sock, I think up until almost here. I'm not really sure how far I was, and then I tried to put them on, and they were too tight over my heel, so I couldn't put them on. So I've just ripped back the yarn for this sock. You can see that there's well, I wrapped it around the outside of the skein, so there's quite a bit there, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how I did the heel, and I was kind of failing that yesterday, figuring out how I did that in the past, but I thought I should figure out how I did that while I'm also working on writing up the pattern, because now I'm looking at it and seeing what it turns out like in stitches. But I guess if I want to write this as a pattern, it's nice if it's also right in a pattern. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on, and they're coming along just fine, I guess. So then on to the next project, and the next project is spinning, because yeah, I like to spin as well, and I have been spinning on my bat again from Spin City, and with my drop spindle. I have not touched my spinning wheel since the surgery, so yeah, here it is. I glued my my spindle after the little accident that I had with it. But yeah, it works just fine, and I love spinning on this. And well, it doesn't look particularly interesting now because it's all grey. You can see hints of blue through there, I guess. But yeah, that's, I think the grey is a natural color of the sheep, so it's not that strange that there isn't any color variations, whereas the other colors are dyed, so that tends to get a little well, I'm not sure if that gets more variation. Some solid colors are very unnatural, but they are very solid. Anyway, so I think that's the spinning that I've been doing. I'm still working on a single ply, and I'm almost halfway done there. And I want to chain ply it when I'm done with it, because I don't know what else to do with it, because I want to do this yarn entirely on my drop spindle. So, next project. And the next project has been crochet. because yes, I have been working on my crochet blanket. Again, it's Sophie's Universe, which was crochet along in 2015, and I think it's been quite popular because I hear a lot of people have made at least one of these, and some people have even made more than one of these. But I'm making it out of scrap yarn, so leftovers from all the other projects that I've been working on. And I think I was at Black Robe when I showed you last time. I have not actually crocheted this week, but I did last week and I didn't show anything last week, so I can still show it this week. Anyway, so yeah, here I repeated the color that's all the way back in the center. I felt like these colors needed to be repeated at some point. I can't repeat all of them because, for instance, this lovely color, this tealy green, mint green color, yeah, I didn't have many leftovers from that because I tried to knit as much as I could from the skein. So I love that color, but I can't bring it back. Anyway, so I used colors that I thought would match well with this color, just to keep it somewhat less crazy than the interior part of this blanket. And so I went for the solid purple that was in my sock yarn blanket. I knit a pair of socks out of these years ago, but I think it was before I started the podcast. They must have been the Mercury socks, very popular pattern at the time, and I think it's free. Slightly lacy, but not very difficult lace, I think. And then there is another white sock yarn, but it has blue and pink or purple spots on it. I've used it in the before in this blanket, but it's come back. I used that to design my own pair of Edinburgh festive socks. And then there's the Lily Pond yarn, it's the yellow and green, because I really wanted to bring back some more yellow, and green would do well for the leaves. Then I picked the red color that I knit my boyfriend's socks with, and this color actually was just here below, in between the pinks in the previous section. So that's the Oktoberfest colorway, but I felt like it would be nice to have another red color for flowers, and just a white that I had. I think this is the white that I used for my previous knee-high socks, and then just some blue that I probably knit a pair of socks for my boyfriend out of, but I can't remember what pair and when. Anyway, so it's growing nicely, and yeah, I want to try and just crochet like a section a week, because this pattern is divided in a lot of different sections, so that's kind of a workable amount for every week. It was a crochet along after all, but the rounds are getting longer. So yeah, I'm having trouble to keep up with that, especially because there's no one like to cheer you on, in the sense of the crochet along where every part is just coming out every week. You kind of feel like, ooh, I want to keep up with everybody, and now, yeah, there's no pressure. I mean, this pattern has been out for 4 years, so yeah. So there's 2 more things that I have to show you, I think. First, I have been sewing. So last week I told you guys about how much I hated working from PDF patterns, but I went through with trying to make a pair of pants for my boyfriend. They're not finished, but I'm still working on them, because I felt like it would be sad if I have gone through my personal bit of hell to tape all those pieces together and then not even cut pattern pieces. That would just be wasting my energy. Not that I might not be wasting fabric now, but I don't know, then at least I've tried. So here is a part of his pants. You can see that this doesn't really look like pants yet. See, it's unfinished, but I've managed to make the back pocket, and he wanted a red pant, so red but not very bright red. Well, it's a bright color, I think, but yeah, dark red, or wine red maybe. And in that pocket he has some penguins. I don't know if you can see that. You can, from the back side you can see it a bit better maybe. They're just penguins, but now you're looking at the wrong side of the fabric, so it's not as clear, but yeah. This part actually gave me some frustration with the pattern, because you may be able to see that I've stitched this pattern before, but I've ripped out a seam here. Well, that's because the pattern told me to have the right side of this pocket fabric on the inside of the pants, like this, and not on the inside of the pocket. So you can turn the pocket inside out and you will see the little penguins there. And I felt like that was very silly. I mean, who wants to have the right side of their lining fabric show when you are already putting off your pants? I mean, I would like it if I had accidentally had my pocket like this or something to have the lining fabric be nice, or if I or someone for whatever reason would be looking in my pocket. That would be very rude if someone was looking in your pocket like this and this is your back pocket. But I would want the right side of the fabric to be inside the pocket and not here on the back side. Anyway, so the pattern instructions for that were not very clear, and I feel like they were wrong. So yeah. I ripped back and stitched it again, but I'm quite happy with how this looks. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm quite impressed with myself for making a pocket that looks this neat. And I know it's not perfect, but it's a lot neater than I would have expected that I would be able to, so I'm very happy with that. So yeah, and there's of course another back part, because you know my boyfriend has 2 legs. And there's also the front side, which I've also only worked on the pocket bit so far. So there's the front pocket, also with the penguins, because I like penguins. From the inside it looks like this, so I also put on some interfacing on this tab bit, which I don't know what to do with yet, but we will see. And well, yeah, I think this also looks quite nice, but this part wasn't as difficult to do. So yeah, it's coming along. It's starting to look somewhat like pants, and yeah, that in that sense I'm quite happy with it. I'm still looking for the perfect button to put on it, because you know you will need a button to close this pants on the front side. And yeah, I thought you wanted a metal button, because I think that looks nice, but he wanted a dark button, so now I'm kind of unsure what button to put on, and maybe I will need to drag him along to a place where we can find the perfect button for him. So, and then there's one last thing that I want to show you, and it's been my natural dyeing. So I purchased a bouquet of tulips, because I heard you can natural dye with tulips, and I thought, well, that's nice, because I have 2 tulip farms in the family, so I could have access to a lot of flower petals if I wanted to. The farms are quite far away, so I need to travel a lot, and this year it didn't happen because well, because of the surgery, and the right season was right when I wasn't able to do anything. So yeah, anyway, so I tried dyeing with it, and I purchased a purple bouquet of flowers, and I have a picture of it, so I'm trying to get it on the screen here. I'm not sure if that will work, but they were purple, and I was hoping obviously for purple yarn. Well, this is what it turned out like. For those of you who think it doesn't look like it's dyed at all, this is the natural color, so it's definitely changed color a little bit. There's a hint of greenish yellow through here that's not in a natural color, but yeah, it's definitely not the result that I wanted, so I was a bit disappointed with that. So I probably did something wrong. I actually treated this as if they were rose petals. They obviously weren't. Maybe I used too little flower petals. Maybe you need to use like a lot more. I think I weighed it. I think I had 34 grams of flower petals, and I'm trying to dye 100 grams of yarn, so maybe that's just optimistic. Maybe you need more weight in petals than you need in yarn to get any significant results. I don't know, but I will have a proper Google before I try again. But it was a nice experiment anyway, so I just purchased these flowers. They were on sale in the supermarket, and I thought, well, I can spend that much money on a dyeing experiment. So after the disappointment of that, I needed to do something that would give me proper results, and I did some more onion dyeing. So this is dyed with onion peels, and it's a very nice bright yellow. I really love this color. If there's a yellow that I like, then it looks like this, a slightly warm yellow and a deep color as well. And yeah, I'm not really sure what I did differently this time compared to the previous time that I was dyeing with onions, because I've dyed with onions before and then it looked like this. So I don't think I've been eating a different type of onion. I probably had more onion peels than before, which might explain why this color is a bit deeper than this color, but I feel like this is not a lighter shade of this, because this looks very yellowish, and this I think would turn more of a darker orange if it were a more intense color. So I'm not sure. Maybe the onion bits were older, maybe there were more fresher parts in it. I didn't weigh it, and honestly I'm quite happy with the results of both. So yeah, it's just, well, if I ever want to knit a cardigan all out of the same color, I should probably put everything in the same dye bed, because yeah, I don't think you can get away with pretending these two are the same colors. Anyway, so maybe I should also measure how much onion peels I use, like weigh them before I use them or something like that. Anyway, so I had a bit of a better success story with dyeing this yarn, and then I thought I want to dye some more, and I want to try dyeing something that is striped. So if you want to dye in stripes, then you want to have a hank somewhat like this, but obviously undyed, and you want it a bit longer. Well, it's not necessary to be longer, but for instance you could tie it off in the middle here, and then only dip dye the lower half of the skein, so only put half of the skein in your dye bath, so that you won't dye the upper half, and then possibly dye the other half in another color, or leave it undyed, or whatever you want to do with that. So but I thought it would be nice if I had like more than, if I were to dye this hank like that, I would probably get something like one row one color, one row another color, which could be nice, but wasn't really the effect that I was going for. I wanted somewhat longer stripes. So I went wrapping around one doorpost on one side of the room, and to the other doorpost at the other side of the room, so one where you enter my house, and the other to the door to the balcony on the other side of the living room. And I think there's some 6 meters in between, maybe, I don't know, 6 meters is almost 6 yards, 6.5 maybe. So I was wrapping full skein around the doorpost and around the doorpost, and I tried to always go over yarn in the same direction, but somehow I made a kind of knot in there, so my technique didn't really work, and it got very messy, and I ended up winding everything in a ball. So yeah, dyeing failure without even dyeing. So yeah, not the biggest success story that I've ever had, but that's why this skein is walled up, and I will try again, but not just yet. Must say I didn't really have a lot of energy to walk around anyway, so there you go. I was planning on dyeing this again with acid dyes because I still have a lot of acid dyes, and yeah, I need to collect more materials before I can do anything with natural dyeing again. So I think that's everything for this week. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have a lovely week. I hope that you guys don't have to suffer from the cold, and yeah, I hope to see you again next week. Bye!